How can you achieve and maintain business growth? Harvard Business School Executive Education is now accepting applications for a new program, Driving Profitable Growth. Taking place in Boston from October 25th through the 28th, this program focuses on business expansion and organizational growth strategies that can lead your company into the future. Learn more about this 3-day program for senior leaders by visiting hbs.me/growth. That's hbs.me/growth.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, hey, everybody. I almost said Wednesday, probably because I'm still back in New York City on the wrong time and on the wrong date, unfortunately. Hello to everyone. There's just a couple of business things that I want to go through really quickly because I'm so honored, humbled, excited, nervous. There's about 75 adjectives to describe how I'm feeling at this exact moment right before I'm doing the show. To those of you that were watching my page or my show wall, you already know that the fine and fabulous actor Robert Burke is, or should I say Robert John Burke, I'm not quite sure. I guess we'll find out when he gets on the line. Is visiting the show today. And there's just so many things to talk to him about, I can't even stand it. And like I said, I'm terribly nervous. Just a couple of quick business things that I want to not forget about. First of all, PR people, or should I say PR business. To any of you that are business owners out there, friends of mine, or anybody that wants to get involved either in the Met Gala, the Super Bowl, or, as it turned out, Sundance Film Festival. Stephanie McGraw is a dear publicist friend of mine. She's going to be located down in Sundance this year. She's looking for sponsors, people to do her events, people to rent out her facilities. So, sponsorship in any of the three, let me know. Email me, email her, get a hold of somebody, all that good jazz and stuff. Want to not forget to mention this because when I was in New York City, thank you to so many people who sent so many condolences to me on the passing of my dear friend, Alan Stickle. I've given it some consideration, and so for my film festival this year, we're going to do a tribute to him, so I'm very excited. And I have to real quickly say right before we came on air that I was just advised of a passing of another dear friend of mine. So, Lorraine, I do hope you find your peace. Great way to start a show, right? I'm so excited. This is going to be wonderful. So without further ado, let's have Robert come on the line. We'll start talking to him. Hello?
Hey.
It's you, and you sound the same.
I do? In one word?
Yes, you sound exactly like you do. Like literally you. I've been listening to your voice for an hour doing research, just this last hour. So I'm like, is he going to sound the same? But you sound exactly the same. Hi.
I'm going to really talk in my real voice right now.
Oh, my God, please don't do that because that'll freak me out.
No,
we can't have any of that femininity stuff. No, that's quite all right. But you're here, so thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule because you're a really busy guy.
Relatively.
Have you watched your Facebook? You're busy. I mean, I've been looking at all these pictures and all this really cool stuff, and I'm like, this guy is never not busy. He's always got something going on. That must be exciting.
It is exciting. I get to do different stuff. There's a certain amount of autonomy. Nobody really cares what I do. Nobody's ever said to me, hey, Rob, you can't do that project. And I get to do what I want, and it's always different, and it's always fun. And, so, yeah, I'm very, very, very lucky like that.
Oh, yes, you are, as a matter of fact. And of course, obviously, folks, I know that the people that watch my wall have been, like, talking about this. I'm like, oh, my God, this cool guy is coming on my show. I'm like, you're like one of my top 20 actors of all time. That's just me personally. So I'm like, I'm telling you, you're like one of my top 20 because of the fact that you're so diverse, which we'll get into, of course, the TV roles versus the film roles, some of the things that you've done, some of the things I found out about you because I creeped on you and I talked to your friends, so I know some things about you because that's what a journalist does. So I've learned some interesting things about you. But the first thing you need to know, in case you don't know this because I am a journalist, today I found out not only are you born in September, but you're also born on February 25th in 1859 and January 24th of 1955. I went across these websites researching you, and it turns out that they keep reporting your birth date. You're like 100 years old, 100-plus years old. I'm like, I wonder if he knows that.
My stuff was mixed up with some Canadian actor named Robert Burke for a long time. It put me at, I think, currently I'd be 65 or something like that. And, of course, there's Robert O'Hara Burke, who traversed Australia from north to south in the 1800s. There's a couple of different versions. You get to choose, which is fun.
I gotcha, which is neat. Okay. So what I first want to talk about are the things that most people don't know or can't IMDb about you, which is I found out, oh, my gosh, you're karate black belt. I didn't know that. Where did that come from? When did you start that?
Studied for over 20 years, and it was traditional Okinawan Shorin-ryu karate. It was my religion. I just did it for so long, and it was so complementary to everything in life. It wasn't so much about, oh, hey, can you kill this guy with a... It's not that aspect. Once you get into it, you find out pretty quickly that it's not that. And the more you know, the more you feel that you don't know. But I was lucky enough to train with these guys who were very, very traditional. It wasn't a commercial school. It was an invite only. So, you could throw $5 in the can if you had it, but if you didn't, that was fine too. And it was very just traditional and it's very difficult. It was definitely, daunting, but I loved it. I still dream about it because I don't get to train as much. I don't get to train at all now. I loved it.
Well, and that was going to be my question too, is sometimes an actor will take certain experiences, like for instance what you learned there. Have you been able to utilize some of those skills in the roles that you've done in the past?
Well, in karate, there's a series of prearranged movements. They're called kata. And when your teacher, your sensei says, hajime, begin, you begin. You don't go, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I got to fix you go. So,
sure.
So in acting, when you have 5 cameras, 2 of them are in helicopters, there's a big battle scene, and somebody yells action, you go. You know what I mean? So it was very complimentary to, we would watch the door at night to make sure a certain teacher didn't show up because he was going to put you through it. And, if the real teacher showed up, well, you were going to learn. But if the other guy showed up, you were just going to get conditioned all night long. And but you showed up anyway. Do you know what I mean? And so for life, it just complemented life like that. Like, just continue to go. It's okay. Turn your mind off and just do it. Do you know what I mean? And if you get motivated along the way or in the middle of class, that's fine. People say, oh, I got to be motivated. No, you don't. You just have to show up. And then if the motivation comes, that's fine. But I loved it. I don't know why. I'll tell you a story that I really never told publicly. I wanted to take this exact same form of karate as a child. And literally my parents couldn't afford to send us there. And it was very, very, it wasn't very expensive at all. And it wasn't until later in life, in my 20s, that I was having coffee with a guy, and he had these bruises on his eyes. I was like, hey, Steve, how'd you get those bruises? He goes, oh, training and everything. Well, it turned out he was taking this exact form. And I said, I want to do this. And he said, well, we suggest you come and watch. And I said, no, I've watched, and that's how I wound up. And it was great. Anytime they hit me or kick me, I get this smile on my face, like, oh, I'm finally doing
my
it.
gosh.
They couldn't understand what the smile was about. But, it was just a great aspect of experience in my life.
Oh, you sound so passionate about it. Let's hope you find time to get back to that, because it's just not, some of those things don't always come to us in life all the time. And so if we benefit greatly, I'm always an advocate of go back, go do it, find time for it, all that good stuff. I found this funny when I saw this comment. So there's a lot of people out there that refer to you as chisel-faced, and so I'm like, I have to ask him this. So do you find that complimentary or kind of critical? Because if you look at yourself, seriously, do you look at yourself? Because I've looked at about 8,000 pictures of you, and I'm like, oh my God, he's so serious, and literally intense and serious.
Chisel-faced? I don't know where that came from. I think that was like an early IMDb description, and people just kind of ran with it.
Yes.
No, that's genetics. My family has an inordinate amount of features like that. My father and mother were from the west coast of Ireland, from the county of Galway. And it's funny because when my wife first traveled there with me, she was walking down the street in this village one day. She goes, oh, my God, everybody looks like you. The old guys, the young guys there, everybody looks like you. So there is that narrow-faced, cheekbone thing in that part of the country. And my father and my uncles, and it's prevalent.
Yeah, I've noticed that, actually. I don't know if you're familiar with, there's a friend of mine I have, Timothy Murphy, who was on Sons of Anarchy and a whole bunch of other things. You remind me of him, or should I say he reminds me of you. Look, if you don't know who he is, take a look at him, because I'm.
Oh, I know exactly who he is. And his
people
his people are just from south of us in the county of Kerry, along that same west coast.
Oh, neat. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you guys are all kind of like the same but different, so to speak, because I know you're son of Irish parents. Well, you know what I mean, because there's like Ireland and I'm Scottish. So I'm like, well, I'm kind of Irish but not Irish. That's what I always say. I'm like, not really Irish. I'm a Scottish kind of girl. And you're a native New Yorker, which I think is awesome because I'm going to live there. So I have to ask you a question because you're really important and you know everything. I think. I'm moving there in 7 years, and my kids will be grown, and I'm thinking, yay, New York City. And so, of course, everybody's like, no, because you're going to go broke living here. So I'm like, okay, because I know you don't live right in the center of the city. So what would you recommend? I mean, where do you live in that city? I'm like, I was asking people my last trip, I'm like, am I going to go broke living here? Because I'm a little nervous. You know what I mean?
It's getting expensive to live in Manhattan, that's for sure. The outer boroughs now, like Queens and Brooklyn, are really, changing and rebuilding, and but it's still, even in the outer boroughs, it's not terribly affordable.
Oh boy!
I don't live in Manhattan anymore. I live on a barrier island, Fire Island, outside of Manhattan, about 40 miles from Manhattan. But listen, you better start saving. That's all I can tell you.
Thanks a lot. This struggling writer, journalist, screenwriter is going to go broke saving to make a little trip to New York City. I know, I've heard that a lot. I was like, so excited to get there. And they're like, yeah, you better go to Astoria, get a one-bedroom. It's like $1,300. I'm like, that I can live with. And I'm like, I just keep asking people, do you know? You've been there. You're a native person, so obviously you're familiar with the area, certainly.
Well,
I want to talk.
Give me a call on the day, Cindy, and I'll see if I can put you with somebody who can help you.
Because I'm telling you,
we made a real deal here.
Oh my God, it's. I'm scared. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I'm very scared. But I'm like, well, you know what? I've spent most of my life in Wisconsin. It's time to move there. I'll wait till the kids are grown. We'll see how it is. And it's so rich and rough with just art and film. And well, you live there, so I don't even have to tell you about any of this. I'm like, okay. I have to tell you that your sister is beautiful. Oh my God, your family's beaten by the beauty stick, let me just tell you, because you're all very attractive people. I saw a picture of yourself and Maureen, of course, your sister. And so I was curious to ask you if the creative/acting gene is within your siblings as well, or are you the primary actor?
No, we have no point of reference for any performer in our families. Family at all. No. Okay. All my sisters are in medical professionals, oncology specialists, burn specialists, nurse transplant coordination specialists. My brother, I have a twin brother, Bill. He's in kind of high-tech medical sales. So everybody is given over to medicine in some fashion or other, except the baby.
That's really cool. That's neat, though. I think that's neat. You don't necessarily always have to have all of you acting all at the same time. And you do quite a good job yourself, I'm just going to say. Back in the 80s, I found out that you did an experimental teaching program, and I thought that was really cool, and I think we should talk about that. Assuming that's true, because I couldn't really verify it. So I'm guessing that's true?
Yes. When I was a senior in high school, it was an internship. Rather than go to my senior year in high school, I interned with this arts and education program, and then I interned the same year with a LORT regional equity theater, and we toured the country doing children's theater, educational children's theater.
Nice.
After I graduated from university, 6 years later, this same program called me and asked me if I'd like to come on now as an instructor and implement this curriculum in classrooms. And I said, yeah, sure. And so it was kind of learning enhancement through the arts. They called it the valuing process. It was not having to do with ethics or morals. It was having to do with being aware of your alternatives, choosing from them, justification of preference. I like this painting. I like, this piece of music. And then there was a lot of, creative visualization to help students with mathematics, with just relaxing and not freaking out before tests. Kind of schmaltzy, artsy-fartsy kind of stuff, but at the same time, we got great results from it. So I did that for 3.5 years after graduation. And it was very effective, and it became a very successful program. I think it's still going.
Nice, very nice.
Later.
Do you think you'll ever have the time to teach again, or would you even have the desire to do something or be involved in a project or a program like that again?
I would like to. I would like to actually go back to my old university, and I've gone back actually and spoke. But lots of times I think it's very beneficial if somebody comes back and tells you, what they know now. If they only knew then,
right.
These are the pitfalls. These are the hurdles you're going to face. This is a great frame of mind to be in. This will pass, and you'll be okay. And if this is what you want to do in life, really try hard. A lot of people, let's say, just in the arts, have a wrong impression of, it's easy life. It's because we're inundated with the idea of celebrity. Well, I'm like I swim in the middle kind of actor, and the thing is, it's there's a lot of discipline and a lot of dedication you need, and you have to draw on your own reserves in terms of tenacity and sticking to it, and
sure.
So to get back to your question about any type of education I can offer, I would and would like to.
That's awesome. So, like, if I beg you and beg you and beg you and beg you and beg you, you'll be on my panel and you'll talk to all these budding filmmakers at my film festival. If I beg really, really hard and really long, and I ask you, only twice? Just throwing it out there.
Yeah, listen, to me, anytime I can get to work with it, just the past 4 projects I've done have all been short films with, first and second time directors. Mm-hmm. And that's exciting. That reminds me of how I got started. You're not talking about your car or your pool or your golf game, none of which I really talk about anyway. What you're talking about is the work and how to be innovative and how to be creative. And it's fun. It's exciting. That's why I like to be around young filmmakers. So
that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, oh my God, I so have to ask you this question because you have so much to. You have so I wasn't kidding.
I got to find you an apartment. Now I got to come to the film festival.
Right, then you have to come to my film festival because it's the first one, and then there'll be other things on the list. But no, I always have said this 100 times over because I'm very actively involved with the indie community in New York City and other places. The last time I did a panel, the younger filmmakers that come in, they're just so rich, and they just sit there and they suck in everything that you have to tell them. And you're so ripe with experience, and you have experience across the board in multiple mediums, and you've accomplished so much, I would be a fool to not ask you. I mean, it would be an incredible experience. You could think about it. You got time. It's not happening till June, so we don't have to worry about that. But I just thought I'd throw that out there. Now, the next thing is, and I'm just going to randomly throw out this question because sometimes actors don't notice this. So, of course, we all know that you've been on that little show called Law & Order. So I have noticed, and I've watched this in pictures, so I don't know if you've picked up on this, but you have definitive chemistry that transcends your on-screen performance with Mariska. I have to say, I've just noticed this in pictures and when you're together in public and such. There seems to be such a warm friendship there and that you connect in a very good way, and I'm just curious if you noticed that.
You know what it is? It's just trust and respect. I respect her, her integrity, her work ethic, her creativity. She's not somebody who settles for mediocrity. So there's a very complimentary, kind of a mutual admiration society between she and I. I just have so much fun when I act with her. Other people, sometimes you get nervous. Sometimes you get, frustrated. Somebody doesn't know their lines. Somebody is, just doing the scene the same way. She is always taking it up a notch. She's always pushing the envelope. She's like, was that bad? Was that terrible? No, that wasn't terrible. Let's. So, she just doesn't settle. And it takes a lot of energy. She's a mom. She's an advocate.
Right.
She's a producer, actress. She's directing. And she does it all. Everything she does 110%. So just to be around someone like her, she's like a force of nature. And I, pinch myself. I say, wow, how did I get to be here with her doing this? And I come away with this super, this feeling of gratitude, because I think and the message of the show is important in terms of victims of domestic abuse and sexual abuse and child abuse and her advocacy for that. She's tireless. She just keeps going. And so anyway, if you're seeing admiration,
I mean, it's huge, it's mutual. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, if you just, folks, I'm telling you right now, whoever's listening, and take a peek at the two of them. Just looking, press photos, red carpet pictures, just any little thing you can see. So it's a mutual respect, and I have that same thing with a director friend of mine. So I could tell, I was like, this is absolutely amazing that they have that chemistry off screen, on screen. That's what you like to see, obviously. That kind of goes without saying. Now, I want to flip over for a little bit and talk about, you had your education at the State University of New York. So in all of my digging, it was very, very hard for me to find where you got the bulk of your acting experience, because oftentimes actors will come on to the show here and they'll talk about extensive acting classes, etc. So can you give us a little background in terms of where you learned the majority of your educational experience relative to acting?
Relative to acting, it would. There were a lot of places along the way. Can you hear me, son?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I just switched over to headphones. I have to say, it was SUNY, the State University of New York at Purchase. It's a conservatory program. I can't remember how many auditioned to get in. I can remember it being like a 4-day audition. It was extensive. They selected 30, and it was thousands. They selected 30. Out of that 30, 4 years later, only 11 of us graduated. You were expected to eat it, sleep it. I mean, you know, my sisters would joke over Thanksgiving dinner like, "Oh, Rob, so how's juggling class going?" And they were just kind of like, I was like, yeah. But we were responsible for the entire, 5,000-year history of the theater: speech classes, phonetic alphabet, juggling, circus arts, Shakespeare. Just the amount of memorization that I can still render. Every single monologue I've ever learned is still in my head, and I can recite Shakespeare from now until like 9 o'clock tonight. Just what I learned 30 years ago. Seriously, just from what I learned 30 years ago. So they were gonna if you were late 10 seconds to a class, that counted as an absence. 2 of those you were out of the program. They were not joking. They were going to furnish, if not talented actors, certainly professional actors, and they did just that. It has a wonderful reputation to this day. The training was, again, it goes back to what I was speaking about, celebrity and stuff. These days, they're young actors who, they do one thing well, and that's them. But when you're asked to play a 5,000-year-old dragon, or it just, that conservatory training gives you just the ability to do anything that's asked of you in your craft and to speak about in the history of the theater. And so it gives you a tremendous foundation. And I credit the professors and the teachers and the instructors I had there because they were required to keep a professional life. They couldn't, there's the old adage, those who can't, teach or something like that. It's a horribly disparaging way to put it, because our teachers did keep a professional life in lieu of their, being teachers. So it was a difficult process. I mean, but it made me it gave me the professional elements of my career that I have today. I'm not late. I think I've been late once in like 30 years.
Oh my God!
It's just respect, and plus the fact that people have said to me, "Oh gosh, Bob, you're not supposed to be here for another hour." I get to do that. I get to act. Of course, I'm going to be there early. I'm so grateful to do it, and I never, ever, with my actions or words or thoughts, ever apologize, because I'm so grateful to be doing something that other people would like to do. It wasn't really my dream, per se, as a kid. I was like, I want to be an actor. I really kind of didn't say that. But I just said, I'm just kind of stumbling into this thing. But I was always grateful that things turned out the way they did. That SUNY Purchase would have been just a terrific acting program.
Gotcha. And we're grateful, of course, because if we hadn't started acting, we wouldn't have about 8,000 performances that all of us get to watch, rewatch, enjoy. Yeah, that's right. I said that because I was just watching you the other night because I pop in. I have certain favorites that I like to watch, which, of course, I'll tell you which ones are mine. But here's a good question, because we talk about this a lot every time I bring an actor on the show. There are some actors that come from the school of thinking that I'm going to take 1 or 2 acting classes and they build a career off of it and it's sensational. And then you have some that come along the line and they're like, you know what, you need to have very formalized education over long periods and continuing education as it relates to acting. Where do you stand on that sense? Which would you recommend to a starter?
I can't speak to, I can't take away from someone who is working, who didn't have a lot of experience or a lot of training. It goes back to my family, whereas my sisters were all medical professionals. When I said to my dad, he goes, well, what are you going to do? I said, I think I'm going to be an actor. I can't really, he said 3 words. One was A, and the other one was what? He said, a blanking what? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, can you go to school for that? And I said, yeah, you can. He said, to college? I said, yep. And he said, okay, then try to go to the best place there is for it. And I said, okay. So the thinking in my family was, it doesn't matter what you're going to do, you are going to get a degree, because that was the kind of the immigrant experience, you know, that you should succeed in the United States and, you know, go to university. And that was a wonderful, you know, that made us all the professionals that we are, I guess. But, yeah, so I don't take away from anybody who's just, you know, wonderfully successful with, you know, 2 acting classes or no acting classes. But at the same time, I'm always a little more enamored of those people who have trained, you know, and really pushed themselves to learn lots of different aspects of the craft.
Very nice. Okay, now I just want to prepare you that this might make you blush, but I'm going to ask this question because before I hosted you, I asked an actress friend of mine. I said, "What do you think of this guy?" Just general. I sent him your IMDb and the whole 9 yards, and I've heard this comment before. So you've been considered to be somewhat of a more mature sex symbol. Did you know that? I kid you not, because let me tell you something. This is what I do know about you. I was told by a certain website, you're 13,007 on the most man-crushed upon celebrity man list, and 20,842 on the top celebrity crushes of all time. Bet you didn't know that about yourself. Yeah. You're at 20,000. That's not bad.
Let's put this in perspective. How many people are there on the planet Earth? Okay, now.
Like
those things are hilarious, I think, you know.
It makes me laugh. I'm like, oh my, that's well, but you know what, you have to, so I guess we should address that. Obviously, of course, I've seen you in roles where you play this dashing gentleman and women will preface you and they'll say, oh, you're so much more dashing in person. So does that embarrass you, or you're kind of like, well, I'm an older, more mature actor. Men age very gracefully. I would surmise that helps in terms of casting. Would I be correct?
You'd have to ask the casting people, but at the same time, that whole aspect of show business, what you look like and how you act and everything, that makes me a little wacky. I kind of stay away from that.
Gotcha.
I'm just so happy to be healthy, to be happy, and to be able to do what I do.
Yes.
You know, people. That's what, you know, people who watch, people who engage with shows and films and everything. That's what they get to do, and if that's what they see, that's what they see, I guess. My family will come home and tell you that, you know, oh, look at the TV actor down scrubbing the kitchen floor, you know. You know.
That's so cool. That is cool. Yes, actually. So, that's neat. But, you know, I mean, obviously, of course, in today's society, as we all know, it kind of helps to have certain characteristics, certain age, certain look. Actors tell me that all the time. I mean, you kind of almost have to be a chameleon to keep getting cast, so they tell me.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
You know, it's a trap, though, sometimes, I think, aesthetically. Oh, hey, that you know, person is good-looking and everything, and they can act or they can't act. I just, you know, I've seen actors who are not aesthetically pleasing, let's say, just who are brilliant, you know, just move me and make me angry, make me laugh. So it's, you know, you're basically holding a mirror up to society and telling a story. And so if you look, I mean, like lots of times I was being cast as a military, you know, person. We're going back to chisel face. This is what, you know, the audience wants to see in their leaders or their fighting men, you know, the hard-charging FBI agent. So, yeah, there is an aesthetic. People use the expression typecasting. Listen, the operative word there is cast. You know, you're getting cast.
Yeah.
So So sometimes it doesn't hurt to have a certain look or the way you deport yourself and such.
You bet. I would agree with that, definitely. Now, this is an interesting story, of course, because most of you probably know this already, but I understand that you're a certified firefighter for the New York State. And I have to thank you for your service, first of all, because I have the utmost of respect for any individual, police, firemen, military, etc. So can you tell our audience a little bit about how you got involved in all of that? Because I'm sure not everyone knows the story of what made you want to become involved.
Well, it's pretty straightforward. I had a best friend. He was a fire captain in New York City. He was killed on 9/11. His name was Captain Patrick J. Brown. He was the captain of Ladder Company 3 on FDNY. And he was amongst the most decorated firemen in the history of New York City. On that day, I got my family out of Manhattan, and then the next day went down with his brother to the site, and we commenced to kind of look for Pat and anybody else. To make a long story short, I believe that was the first day I ever operated as a firefighter, and didn't really realize it. So then I came back to my town, and I thought to myself, well, I know Joe, I know Jim, I know, these guys are the volunteer firefighters. Mm-hmm. Why should it always be them? Why can't it be me? And so I went to them and I said, hey, can I join? And they're like, yeah, sure you can. You're in better shape than most of these guys. So I threw in, that was, I guess, 15 years ago, and I'm a captain now, which is, I never thought I would be an officer, but I just, there's an expression, stepping up, and I was, again, grateful to be doing it. I do it as, like, homage to my friend, but if you're an Irish Catholic first generation from a neighborhood in New York where I grew up, you either became a cop or a fireman. And so it's funny how life allowed me to walk this path in lieu of being an actor also. Some funny things have happened on fire calls and EMS calls over the years, where people will recognize you. My guys used to give me up, yeah, that's him. And then I'd have to talk to the person. And then they'd be like, hey, come on, Cap, we're like 20 minutes late. I'm like, well, you introduced me, so now they don't. Now they say things like, nah, he looks just like that guy, and you get out of there. No. But it's great. It's extensive in terms of certifications, recertifications, OSHA, FEMA, Homeland Security, PESH. You have all these different organizations that require different certifications. The 28th and 29th, I'll be recertifying in ice rescue. Right after that, we'll have to redo our bailout ropes, jumping out windows and stuff like that. So there's this constancy of training, which is great, because you're in the business, in the fire service, it only has to happen once. And you should really be prepared for it. I have to tell you though, Cindy, with the acting and everything, the fire service is my passion. Do you know what I mean? The acting I love, and I get to do it, but I think I missed my calling because I just love it, and it has just such meaning to me that I get to help out someone on their, they call 911 because they're not having a very good day. And if you can alleviate their pain or, expedite it or, put the fire out or what have you, the gas leak, and not to get paid. I mean, it's just a great feeling. It's the way I think our country started. And, people say, what can I do? What can I do? Hey, you know what? You should never have to ask that question because there's plenty you can do. And so it's just been an honor and a privilege, really.
Now, this poses an interesting question. One of the things I thought was, all right, which is a more rigorous schedule, a firefighter schedule or an actor schedule? Because some actors are like, oh, my God, we're not set forever.
When they cross over each other, it's not good.
I bet.
I told you I've never been late to a job, and the only time I was late, I was in the back of an ambulance getting oxygen after this fire, and I said to the EMT, I said, "Can you close this?" I said, she was a captain. I said, "Cap, I'm gonna request something that you've never." I said, "You have to call my agent and tell him I might be late." She's like, "What?" Yeah. But there are times when, let's say I have to be in Manhattan at 4 a.m. And the tones will go off or, down power line or something like this. And you go, but I feel some days that this television show ain't getting their money's worth out of me because I'm like, my butt is dragging. But, you know, it's volunteer. Like, even while I'm speaking to you, I could get a call. Probably won't happen, but we, in the fire service, don't ever say that because that's exactly when it will happen. So when I'm home, I'm on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and, you know, it's your community. This time of year, 90% of my EMS runs it's going to be somebody I know, and it's just a great feeling, you know, to be able to be there for your community.
Oh, of course, absolutely, without a doubt. No, I guess the bigger question is, of course, obviously you are a father as well as a husband. So how does that work? I mean, is it complex? You know, the juggling act, because of course you have to be everywhere all at once, seemingly. How do you function? Do you sleep? I was wondering.
Yeah, no, I sleep. You know, these things happen. Everything's doable. Everything's manageable. The only thing I would say about the fire service, as per volunteerism, is professionals leave the house in the morning, and it's like, okay, bye, kids, and Dad goes to the firehouse. Whereas when the tones go for me, my kids see me go out the door, and then they can go outside and look up into the sky and see smoke. You know, so there is a difference there. I think my children, you know, honor and respect the fact that I do this as an example to them how they should be in life in their communities in this country. But there's time. Do you know what I mean? I make time.
Yeah. Sure.
And, you know, my kids will tell you that I've been a very present dad, and
awesome.
I think that's been the biggest and the best. I mean, my greatest days were on, you know, Little League fields and basketball courts with my guys. You know, and any dad will tell you the same thing. So yeah, we get to spend a lot of time together, which is such a blessing. I can't even describe.
Oh, I imagine, and definitely. And kudos to you on 26 years of marriage, folks. I mean, can you believe that? 26 years. I can't even get a relationship to last that long. Kudos.
Then there's the 10 that we were together before those 26. So.
Oh my gosh, that also is like 36. Oh, see, 36. That was an aw moment, everybody. Aw, yeah. That's so sweet. Yes, you know, truth be told, you know, some of us don't have that like in relationships. And you know, that's one thing I've always been amazed about is because you are considered, obviously, a celebrity in many, many circles. So is it difficult and challenging? I mean, we hear about couples who just struggle all the time. Well, some couples you never hear about, and some, you know, I mean, is that tough? I mean, you know, there's a lot of, that's a lot, there has to be a lot of, oh my, I don't even know how you handle that. That's a lot.
I'm going to answer your question, is it tough? And I'm going to use the word no, and that's the complete sentence. That's the complete sentence right there, no.
I love it.
No, I have a tremendous wife, tremendous partner, tremendous, you know, I met her on my first day at college, and she said, I have a boyfriend. And I said, well, I don't want to go out with him. I want to go out with you. And so I kind of like, you know, wore her down. She really wouldn't have anything to do with me, God bless her. But she saw it my way there in the end. Tremendous partner. She was tremendous mother. Gosh, I just can't say enough. And that's like another blessing. You know, those things, so I understand what you're saying, and I accept what you're saying in terms of, you know, well, it could be any business really where, you know, these types of things happen. But certainly in show business, people perceive that. You know, it's interesting because the people I know in show business, they've had experiences very similar to my own, you know, rock solid, and that's the way it is, you know, so.
Right, and we like to hear that. We don't like to have couples in distress, and I don't think people realize when you're in a celebrity circle, you know, you're still a real life, you know, you're a real life person with real life problems, with a wife, et cetera, all that good stuff. So that's good to hear. So congratulations.
Just to say that some celebrity was in the paper and they checked in for exhaustion, and I was like, give me a break, will you? Until I came back from Africa on a 14-hour flight, I stayed up, and then my wife said, "You're nuts. You should go to sleep." And I said, "No, I feel great." And of course, the minute I went to sleep, a fire broke out, and I was 14 hours of that fire, and I remember going, oh my God, I'm nuts. I should have listened to her, And I almost had to check in for exhaustion. I was just like, well, now,
Oh my God.
So it's a karma thing with me. You got to watch what you put into the world because it might be, it might be a freight train coming back at you.
Oh, no, I know exactly what you're talking about. I do. So good. So that's nice. So that gives us hope to some of us who are still single out there. Actually, I've been pursuing a mutual friend of ours. I found out the other day that you're friends with him, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I keep pursuing. He's a New Yorker, but I'm not getting anywhere. So it's kind of nice to know that there are some people out there that have a nice relationship, and eventually it will happen before I'm dead. Well, I'm 47, so at this rate, Well, he's a New Yorker, and he's an actor. So you know what that's like. He's juggling a lot of things, and so we'll see how it goes. We'll see. So I have.
Well, go ahead.
No, that's fine. No, I mean, and it's difficult because obviously in actor's life, I had always said, because I'm in radio and I'm a journalist and I'm a writer and I do film, and I'm like, I know this lifestyle all too well, and he's a very busy man. He's an Irish fellow. Actually, he's a terrific guy. He's been on my show too. I know.
Home
Springs of Time. Yes, you do. That should be a big hit right there.
Initials
that I
DL?
can't say his name. His what?
Are his initials DL?
No, I have no idea who that is.
Then I'll get somebody else.
No, he's an actor, and actually, you liked the status of his not so long ago. And he's worked with Kevin Bacon. He's worked with a bunch of different people, and he rides a motorcycle, and he's so pretty. But it's never going to happen because he's an actor and he's crazy nuts and busy and he's got to let go. Enough about me. So let's go back to the important person here because I'm never going to get anywhere with that boy. But it's just nice to see that. I always get excited when there are couples out there that are strong and supportive of one another, and that's amazing. And that helps, I believe, to make that person or that actor or whatever a better man. So there you go. Now, I want to ask you a question because, ironically, I found out that you are a fan, so I hear, of Gary Oldman, and I just approached his PR person about doing an interview with him. How ironic is that? So I was curious to see what you like about him.
I mean, he's a chameleon. He's an intelligent actor. There was a film called State of Grace years ago. It was about a group of men referred to as the Westies, and he played a character in the film based on a real life man, and I don't know, just his portrayal. He was more New York than New Yorkers. He was more of a West Side guy than West Side guys, and here he's from Britain. So just anything I've ever seen him in, I always just thought he was just so intelligent and it seems effortless, but I guess he puts the work into it because you can't be that good without tons of homework.
Sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely admire anything he does. I watch the guy read the phone book, as they say.
That's amazing. I'm a huge fan of his, and I'm like, you know what? It never hurts to ask. Sometimes if you don't ask, you don't get what you want. And so I've just gotten a little flavor. Like asking Robert Burke to come on my show, because what kind of crazy person does that? Because I was like, oh my God, he's going to think I'm a nutcase. He's never going to say yes. And here he is right now. Success, so that's kind of cool. So I'm like, awesome. Now we get to talk about all that stuff you do for a living, meaning on the other side of the fence, your acting career. I have a question for you. Okay, well, I have multiple questions, but I guess here. Well, let's talk about one of my favorites, which is Sinner, because I just happened to be watching that the other day. And you were talking about your kids like, oh, this is my dad and all this. And I'm thinking, how cool must that be to be like, yeah, my dad was like a 300-pound dude in the Stephen King movie, and it was so awesome. I have to ask, what is it like to be that fat? Obviously, you're not that fat, but I was like, that must have been such a cool role. Stephen King movie, that experience must have been just awesome.
It was awesome, and I was shocked that I got it.
Really?
It was a Friday afternoon audition, and I was like, I wanted to blow it off and just get out of the city, and I went on it. And I had nothing to lose, so I kind of just I walked in with my 161 pounds or whatever I was at the time, and I just started doing this stuff, and everybody started kind of laughing. And anyway, so Stephen had the ultimate decision about who would get the role and everything. I like hiding. Like any actor will tell you, you like to hide. You like to have a costume. You like to, and that was kind of a terrific role to play. I dressed up in the makeup and in the bodysuit that they put on me, and walked down the street Santa Monica, walked down the streets of New York, just I'm not a method actor per se, but just to see how people would react, how I, some people look and go, hey, there's something wrong with that dude. And other people would just kind of give you a sideways glance, and then other people wouldn't make, pass any remarks of you at all. But it was fun. I thought it was a kind of a flawed film in the end. Steven wanted it one way, the studio wanted it another. There were lots of different little pockets of suggestions, and I was still relatively new, so I was saluting as fast as I could to everybody trying to do the best. But a lot of people liked the film and everything. I thought it was very, very different from the book, in terms of presentation. The gypsies certainly were different from what the book. And we met gypsies. We met Rom gypsies at the time. They looked like you or I. They just looked like regular people. I guess.
Really.
Visually, in terms of cinema, that wouldn't be terribly interesting. But waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning, a 5-hour makeup job to be ready for 6 a.m. to shoot 12, 14, 16, 18-hour days, to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning again. That was where the professional muscles came in. And then contractually, sure. I was obligated to lose 25 pounds while we were shooting. So
oh my.
It was interesting. I would do a scene where I'd eat 6 shrimp, but I'd do that scene 11 times. So that was 66 shrimp. And then, the next scene is a pack of potato chips, but we did that scene 21 times. So when I met with him the first time, I was like, oh my God, there he is, what am I going to ask him? And I asked him the proverbial, Mr. King, is there anything you can tell me to help me with this role? And he looked at me, he goes, you're going to eat. And I go, what? And he goes, you're going to eat. Most movies we see people eat, but we know they're spitting it out or they're not. He goes, you're going to eat. And I thought to myself, well, wow, I've been eating since I was a child. I know how to do that. Of course I can. But he wasn't joking, man. I just ate and ate and ate. At the same time, I had to, contractually lose this weight, which I did. But again, it was fun. Joe Mantegna was in the film. He was just so much fun to get to know.
Oh yeah.
We were shot in Maine, which was beautiful.
Right.
So yeah, it was challenging, but in the end, it was fun.
Oh, I imagine so, definitely. And Stephen King, you can't even get higher than that when it comes to writing. In fact, I've said it 100 times, Stephen, you got to retire. Some of us want to actually have a career. I'm like, never going to have a career until he's because he's like the man. So I'm like, how am I ever going to compare to that? I've written some pretty kick-ass things, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not a Stephen King. So we'll have to see. We'll see how it goes.
Wow.
As far as that goes.
Yeah.
Now, I know that often actors are asked this question. I've seen a good number of bodies of your work, and so I've deduced, this is just me, and you can concur or not, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, that very, very funny scene that you play. I watched that, and I said to myself, of all the performances I've seen you do, I believe that is the closest version of the real you in that scene. Am I way off, or I'm just saying?
No, that's not me. Yes and no. It had to come out. It had to come from me. I remember. Right. I'm going to tell you a little bit of the backstory. That was the first audition I had in 1 year after 9/11, and they kept saying, George Clooney, you're meeting George Clooney. He's directing. I'm like, George Clooney's directing? And they're like, yeah. So I went down and I read this, and I just let it fly. And he was laughing. He was just going, wow. So, smash cut to, I get to the set, I get the job, and which was really a super nice gesture of his, because he's so loyal to his buddies. He could have picked a bunch of guys. So I get up there and I'm watching them filming, and I'm thinking, So comes the day for that monologue. I scale it back a little, and he goes, whoa, what are you doing? And I said, well, I want to be in the same movie you're shooting. And he goes, no, you have to do what you did in the audition. I said, George, it's so over the top. He's like, Bob, trust me. And I did trust him. He's an actor. And there's something about when an actor directs, because you just kind of, he's like, believe me, bro, it's going to work. So I let it rip, and we did the scene a bunch of different ways, and it's funny that he edited it just on the back of those folks I'm shouting at, just the backs of there, because, we got shots of their faces and reactions and this and that and everything. But I just, it was walking a fine line between you're trying to tell a story that has some basis in reality, and yet this is going way beyond anything, And I was happy to be able to do that, to really just let it fly. There were other parts of the film at the beginning when I'm teaching them to be killers, with martial arts and everything. And that was another thing. In the audition, I let out what's called a ki. It's a vocal, you hear it in karate, and it's at that part of the training. It's the kill shot. And I did that in the audition, and I let out this ki, and everybody jumped. And he goes, "What the hell is that?" I said, "Oh yeah, So anyway, he turned out to be just a complete, again, pinching myself. How do I get to be here with this guy?
I know, right?
Wow. Focused, loving guy, cares about the work, takes the work seriously, but I can tell you, not himself. And anyway, he was just a joy to be around and work for.
That's awesome. See, now here I thought you had pegged 100%. Look at that. I'll tell you, but that's
no.
I'm
not. I can get wacky and goofy, but I'm 57.
It's not quite you. No, I got it. And it is a little over the top role, but it's very funny and it's very amusing. And it captures and it keeps us in and it keeps us laughing. It keeps us attentive to the movie, which is what actors are supposed to do in part, I would think. You did obviously some work in these two little films called Hide and Seek and Limitless. I just happened to see your scene in Limitless. And forgive me for saying this, but folks, if you've ever watched the movie, you look a little different than yourself. And maybe it's because I'm so used to looking at you as Mickey on Rescue Me, or you have the same sort of look in a progression of different films. And then I looked and I saw he's got slick back hair and he's very cool and very suave and very serious businessman type thing in Limitless. And I thought to myself, would you rather, if given the opportunity by a director, of any role you could play, of all the various ones, which one are you most comfortable in your own shoes? Meaning that this is the closest version of me, since I didn't get the closest version. Is that going to be a firefighter? Well, we covered that, but I mean, outside of that.
A tough question. And the conflict there is you become an actor to get out of yourself. Do you know what I mean? To hide.
Yes.
So to play something really close to the vest, or rather, to play a role that's really close to you, that is you, that can become a little tedious and boring to me. I mean, I don't want to play myself. I want to play some wacko, on shows like, we were just discussing this last night, Special Victims Unit. I had an episode where I had to scream and yell and holler, and there was a television film called Generation Kill, where I play actually the new Secretary of Defense, General Mattis, where I'm up on a bridge in Iraq, and I'm really reaming out these fellow Marines for not progressing more quickly. Anything where I can be just really hard charging and yelling and stuff like that, I just enjoy that. I don't know why. That just makes me feel alive and makes me feel I'm doing my job, and it just is exciting to me. When I'm, there's a lot to be said for subtlety and underplaying and things like that, but if I'm yelling and screaming and being wacky, I'm more comfortable doing that, and that's not me. That's totally not me. I'm pretty low. I think I'm pretty low key, although I've been known to yell and scream in certain situations. But
right? Are you kidding me? Folks, are you hearing him? Really?
Scream,
I was afraid.
Yeah.
I mean, I was like, literally, I watched all these roles, and you're like walking out of this building, and you're like, what the hell do you think? You need to go call the ambulance. Da, 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 da. He's always got this really stern sort of, do you notice that about yourself? Every time you're like walking out of a building and you're doing stuff, you're like really stern most of the time. Well, maybe not Law and Order, but I'm like, he's always got this tone. And then you look at your pictures, and you've got that glare, and I'm like, oh my God, I am afraid of you. I was like, the last hour, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. This man's probably going to scream at me. I thought you were going to yell at me. I'm like, oh my God, what if I don't get something right? He's going to probably yell at me.
I think one of my sons once said, look, they have to pay people to be afraid of dad. Isn't that hilarious? Because certainly they're not. I mean, that's what people project onto you, You're going in for a role of a hard-charging FBI agent. You don't show up at the audition with a lollipop, certainly, but at the same time, you want to a lot of my friends were actually in the, and were in the police department and law enforcement and stuff, and the military, I should say. And there's a certain, what's the word? Well, it's called command presence. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you can be a general and have no command presence, or you can be a sergeant and have tons of command presence. So somebody once said that to me. They said, "Oh, when you do military, you have command presence." And I said, "What is that?" They said, "You just seem like, And to me, it's just observing without knowing that. Why am I observing this guy? This guy looks like a real butt kicker. And especially with military roles, I'm very compelled to do it right, and because no one's ever shot a round at me in anger, and I just can't even conceive what that must be like. So when I do those types of roles, I really want to get it right. Do you know what I mean? And there's no way I can because I never served my country in the military, but at the same time, there's no reason why I can't do the homework and really just figure out how these guys stand, how they breathe, how they hold a rifle, how they speak, because that's what we're doing. We're portraying them. Right. And going back, I guess, to the original question is I like to play roles that are far away from me.
Gotcha.
That make, they say stretch yourself as an actor, rather than, there he is, again, with the blue suit,
Right. Oh, no, I totally get it. And it's ironic you mentioned that about the military, because my neighbor actually was over here yesterday, and he saw your picture, and he's like, "Oh, you're interviewing him?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you saw him in some of these roles, right?" And he had seen you play a military guy. Turns out he was in the military for 25 years, and he said, "I've seen his performances," and he was very impressed. You're very similar to him, meaning in look and stance and the way that a military soldier would perform. So kudos to you on that one. And that's a real live military person talking. So I thought that was neat. Now, just to mention a few other things before I ask the Robocop question, of course, he's been in Tombstone, he's been in Copland, Hide and Seek, Good Night and Good Luck, Munich, obviously Limitless we talked about. So before we get to the Robocop question, I almost forgot that you were in Two Guns with my main man who I just watched in Fences, Denzel Washington, because in my head I keep asking him for an interview and he keeps turning me down. And then I finally caved in and did ask. Of course, I'm never going to hear anything about that either, but just have to ask what it's like to work with that man.
The bar is high. That's all I can say.
I bet.
He is, people throw around the word craft, and it's really kind of hard to convey. There's so many different aspects, the lights, the sound, what you have to say, how am I going to say it, how is it going to be different, how am I going to get, 11 million people next weekend in 1,000 theaters to say, oh my goodness, look what he's doing. The craft aspect of it, and then there's just what God gave you in terms of talent, and how you share that. But he is in just another complete zone. He's, I would say he's a master, at acting. He's just, you're just getting 110%. This tremendous human quality to whatever role he plays, I can't say enough about the man. My experience, obviously, with him was limited in that film. But again, just an honor to share the set with him and get to know him a little bit. And I just can't say enough about the guy. I think he's
it's got to be amazing.
He's the real deal. He's beyond the real deal.
Now, the last movie question I have for you is I'm curious about. Okay, so RoboCop 3. Peter Weller, obviously, and I have a friend who has worked with Peter before and said some very nice things. So your RoboCop experience, that seemed like something a little different for you to do, which of course you're talking about wanting to get away from some of the typical stuff. So what was that experience like? And moreover, I hope, because the media tends to do this, or critics tend to do this, that your performance was singled out away from Peter, not necessarily take away from him, but you're two different people, two different actors. Am I making sense?
I think that anytime. Let me back up a little. I had done. It was just, I think, my third film actually, and I had done these two other independent, art house kinds of films, and was starting my career, and then somebody, my agent called and said, "Oh, they're interested in you for playing RoboCop," and I had said, "I have certainly no interest in doing that whatsoever," and they wouldn't let go. It was like 7 or 8 months of just kind of shucking and jiving and saying, well, I'm not really interested. And then I got to talk with them, and they told me about the script and this and that and everything. So finally I said I would do it and everything. And, Orion Pictures was in the process of going bankrupt at that time. And that's
oh, my God.
That's not the ideal position of the studio or that you want to be in while you're shooting a film with them. That it was or was not, a great Robocop. I mean, listen, the first one was so damn good that I think they should have kind of left it alone. The second one, I think, just kind of lost its way a little. And the third one just didn't know what it kind of wanted to be. There was so much possibility in that character. And I think there still is. I mean, he's iconic, robocalls and robo this and robo that. But for me, it was my third film. I was on the set, and I remember peeking out the Venetian Blinds trailer and going, holy smokes, look at this. Is amazing how this all works, And so I was just literally, a lot of exciting things happened, explosions and all that stuff. It was a baptism of fire in terms of learning special effects, because you're the deep end of the pool. You can have effects guys thinking, oh, he's in this metal costume. We'll just shoot the zirconium bullets right at him. And, they lodge in your nose and your mouth and you're yelling ceasefire. My first night, some gasoline spilled on me mistakenly, and I just went up right on fire. I went through a couple of stuntmen because the costume was, they kept telling me the costume was 60 pounds. And I stepped on a scale one day. We were shooting in a hospital. The costume was 90 pounds. And so anyway, again, showing up, doing the job. I got into the car after the third day of lifting this costume on my shoulders, and I used to be a mason, so I know what an 80-pound bag of Portland cement is. And I said, this costume is more than 60 pounds. No, it's 60 pounds. I said, no, it's not. I know what 80 pounds is because I carried bags for years. And, and my third day, I said, I don't know if I can do this. but I got through it. It was, I think, like a 5-month shoot and I learned a lot, I learned a lot. I worked with some nice people who, some I'm still in touch with. But again, I learned a lot about effects, weapons on sets and safety. And, what the movie does, my mom would always say, is it going to be a good film? And I'd say, Mom, we shoot the good ones the same way as we shoot the bad ones. And we show up, and we try our best, and it's up to the audiences and to see how it all turns out.
Of course, definitely. Okay, now the last segment we have here is to talk about your TV, of course, because he's also done a little bit of TV. But before I forget to ask, because I'm not going to lie to you, I've been listening to you talk for an hour, and I'm thinking to myself, has this guy ever done commercials? Because I'm like, people would probably just want to sit and listen to you. You know how you're talking, and you're like, I could just listen to that voice for another hour. Have you ever done any of that narrative sort of commercial work?
I haven't. Hold on 1 second. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have not. I've been asked to do voiceover work and stuff like that. I did one commercial. One commercial in 1984. It was for Budweiser. It was for the Olympics. And it's the only commercial I've ever done.
Oh, cool.
No, I just don't find myself doing that. I've been asked by different entities to hey, would you think about? Actually, I was asked once by a certain company to do something, and I refused because I just didn't think it was healthy. It was just terrible. And they're like, it's overseas, it doesn't matter. And I said, no, I'm not selling that. But I just don't ever find myself doing that. Not to take away again from anybody who does that. The commercials, the voiceovers, and stuff like that. But I have other things that I'd like to fill my time with.
Of course.
Rather than pursue that.
That makes sense. I gotcha. Now, to you folks that are listening in, he was on that New York City staple, Sex in the City. Now, I have been called the Carrie Bradshaw of Wisconsin, which I always find is a big compliment. I'm like, oh,
really?
Carrie. Really? First of all, I can't even afford her shoes, and I shop at a vintage store. Second of all, I don't write about sex. I write about everything else. But it is a very cool compliment. So I'm like, OMG. When I approach him for this interview, I'm like, oh, my God. Nurse Jackie, Sex in the City, two of my favorite things in the most entire world. two best shows ever. That's just me personally. So I'm like, I bet you're thinking, yeah, it was a gig for me. Obviously chicks like this. I think it's chick-based. You know what I mean? Some of the work that you've done is more the female sort of genre sort of thing, except for the Law and Order type thing where you played. I found that interesting. I'm not a Law and Order fan, so don't hate me. Don't hate on me for that. I don't have time because I have to watch the other shows. But I have watched you on Law and Order, and as I understand it, you played 4 different characters.
On
Did I get that right?
To as 4 different characters on what we refer to as the mothership, which was Law and Order. Law and Order.
Yes.
But I played the same role on Special Victims Unit.
That's what I thought.
So 4 different roles. I used to say they must be up to the B's again. You know, they call me. But again, that was it was fun to do. An FBI guy, a contractor, a colonel. And I can't remember what else, but I bet
that was like awesome. And just so you folks know how ironic, you, of course, your time in Sex and the City found you in front of Cynthia Nixon. I found me in front of Cynthia Nixon at the Chicago International Film Festival because she did a short film or something like an independent film that she was in. And so it's always so cool to meet them, like, you know, in person and all that good jazz and stuff. So I'm kind of like, I was kind of in the same room with the same person that Robert Burke was in a room with. So I'm kind of like, I kind of met you, only not really, because it's kind of like through persons, people, things. That was kind of a cool experience.
It's all connecting.
Yeah, it's like 6 degrees of separation, what can I say? And then he was on The Sopranos. I got a bunch of friends that are on The Sopranos or did The Sopranos show. So I guess, because none of us are ever going to meet him, did you ever get a chance to work with James Gandolfini? You can talk about screen legend. OMG.
Yeah.
Right?
I only worked with him the one day. We met each other, not socially per se, but at different foundation events and stuff like that. Edie and I have known each other since junior high school.
Oh my gosh!
We went to the same junior high, we went to the same high school, and we went to the same college together. And we had the same acting teachers along the way. And she's one of my oldest friends. She's just a tremendous. More than anybody, really, just so proud of her. Because she didn't have an easy time of it in terms of, where she came from and where she's arrived at. She worked super hard, and she would do these little plays in New York and go back to her waitressing job. And I used to think, if somebody as talented as her, is struggling, maybe I should get out of here. And then all of a sudden, she was doing a show called Oz, and she was doing a show on Broadway called Sideman, and then The Sopranos came along, and she's just a consummate actor. SUNY Purchase graduate, same acting program. Edie I've known since I guess 1973 or 74, and we did our first film together. Which was called The Unbelievable Truth in 1988, I believe it was, or 1989. Sopranos, I was only on there once. It was, but it was fun, to touch the door and say, I was there.
That's amazing. It is. It's awesome. And that was a great show. Another staple, of course, especially with Italian culture. That was amazing, obviously. You've been on Oz, of course, which I've heard nothing but rave reviews about. He's done Blue Bloods, Gossip Girl, Army Wives, obviously Nurse Jackie, Allegiance. And that brings us full circle to my second favorite character, which is, of course, Mickey on Rescue Me. So this is my big question for you as it relates to that show. And forgive me if I'm being presumptuous, but it seems as though in the beginning when that show first started taking off, it was kind of a mixed bag of nuts. You know what I mean? Like some people out there are thinking, I don't know what to make of this, and it was a little brash and a little abrasive, and some of the feedback I used to get in the beginning of the show wasn't so terrific. But you built this character, this hard ass, so to speak, as I always call him, but he has a sense of charisma and stuff. You can't not like him, even when he's being difficult, even when he's yelling at Dennis Leary's character. You're like, you just can't help it. I can't help but like this person. So I guess the big question is did you all realize what a phenomenal success the show was going to be while you were working on that project?
No. Dennis had his firefighter foundation, the Leary Firefighter Foundation,
right,
already up and running by virtue of a fire that had happened in Worcester, Massachusetts, whereas he lost his cousin, Jerry Lucy, and another friend he grew up with. So he was already doing service for firefighters. 9/11 happened, and then he knew my friend Pat Brown, and he developed this show about firefighters in the city. He had just had a show that was a tremendous show about the New York City Police Department called The Job, which is what fire and first responders are. Hey, are you on the job? Anyway, that show went away. He used to say ABC did him the greatest service by canceling that show, and then he got along with Rescue Me. And I remember I was coaching third base one day in Little League, and my phone rang, and it said, "Hey, Dennis wants you to play his cousin on a show." And I said, "Okay." So I called Dennis, and he goes, "He's a priest." And I said, "Oh, how is that going to work?" He goes, "Oh no, he's hard charging. He's a fighting. He's a drinking." And I was like, "That sounds interesting." So the platform was very solid. It was a tricky show because there was a fine line between insensitivity, between the responsibility of portraying these men and the platform you have. You're portraying FDNY members in lieu and in the wake of 9/11.
Right.
He knew my connections with the fire department in New York, and so we would sometimes not be in conflict, but we would sometimes have discussions about, hey, what, I think that goes too far, or that doesn't go, So anyway, it was a show. It could be comedic, it could be dramatic, or profound. Oh, now we're doing slapstick. It was a lot of different things, and he knew that. He knew, hey, you know what? I'm not sure the audience knows what it wants from this show, so I'm going to give them everything. Do you know what I mean? But there was tremendously heartfelt laughs on that show. Really stuff that was just super funny. And then there was stuff that was super, super sad. And then there was all that stuff in the middle. He was a tremendous writer. He and Peter Tolan, Evan Riley, and the cast, Steve Pasquale and John Skirty and just these actors were just, I thought, hilarious. So it was controlled anarchy, because a lot of Lenny Clark and Adam Ferrara, these guys are stand-up comedians. So they'd literally say, "Burke, okay, do it again, Burke, but this time be funny, will you?" And I was like, oh my God, I because these guys are funny guys, and they just know how to do funny stuff. And it was one of the greatest experiences in terms of work, because that didn't seem like work to me. That just seemed like, again, controlled anarchy or something. It was just like, but you know what? Again, the most important thing to me that came out of that was the work I got to do with the New York City Fire Department. The work we did restoring 14 out of 22 firehouses in New Orleans. I did 5 or 6 trips down there. The work we've done, all throughout the country and continue to do for the fire service. I just looked online today. There's a picture of Dennis sitting in some firehouse in like Dallas, Texas or somewhere, or Houston, I can't remember where. He just refurbished. So there's a constancy. There's this, he's never come off the wall in terms of helping out the fire service and, walking the walk, not just talking the talk. That to me was amongst the greatest things to come out of having been a part of the cast of Rescue Me, was to be able to go and do those things and continue to do them, for the fire service.
Now, the other question I have is, of course, to those of us that are curious about your upcoming projects, there are 4 that were listed, and I wasn't quite sure if you can talk about any of them, because sometimes actors can't because they're in pre-production or post-production. There are 4 total: the Boarding School, Future 38, Being, and We Only Know So Much. Are any of these going to be coming out in the near future, or can you give us a status on that?
I don't know, actually.
Sorry.
We Only Know So Much is still in post-production. They still have a couple of shots to get done. Future 38 was just selected to be in the Slam Dance competition at the Sundance Film Festival.
Nice.
Being is still in production. They're still shooting. There's 2 other short films. So I'm doing these like little. I had to remain available for Special Victims Unit, not contractually per se, but I kind of just, they've been always so good to me that they're, hey, Bob, are you busy? What is it? So I've been doing these like little films too, which have been so much fun. And so yeah, Future 38 is going to be at the Slam Dance competition at the Sundance Film Festival. And Jacob is it's kind of a thriller. It's with Boaz Yakin, who directed me in a film called Safe with Jason Statham. And this is a kind of a very, very disturbing little thriller, which I don't really get to do, though, as much. But when I was reading the script, I read the script, in broad daylight, and I was still kind of freaked out. And stuff doesn't really freak me out, but this is like, wow. So anyway, it's a thriller. I don't really go to even see thrillers, but this is an interesting little yarn, so I hope that turns out well. That'll be in theaters maybe this summer or something like that.
Okay, cool. I got that. Now, if the average human being is walking down the street in New York City one day and they're like, oh, my God, I totally want to meet Robert Burke, are you out and about? Are you accessible to the public? Can someone just come and meet you if they want to, or just shake your hand and be like, I want to meet that guy?
Yeah, that part freaks me out to this day. I don't know why. You can walk down the street with your head, down and your baseball cap on, and there are other people walk, with their head up and, hey, check me out. But do you guys have Costco in Wisconsin?
We have Costco, and we have, what's that other one you guys have? Don't you have what's your store in New York, like your big store, besides Whole Foods, which I had an awful experience at?
Did you? Well, we Costco,
it's terrible.
Like a wholesaler, and I was there online one day, and this little woman, older woman, in front of me, she said, you look like that guy on television. And I said, oh, yeah? And she said, yeah. And I tapped her on the shoulder, and I said, well, like, what does he do, miss? And she's like, oh, he's an actor. And my wife, like, nudged me. She's like, stop it. So I tapped the woman again. I said, well, like, what is he acting? She goes, oh,
oh, my God.
TV, movies. And I said, oh. And so my wife was like, you're bad. And I tapped her again. I said, hey, miss. And she said, what is it? I said, is he any good? Like, is he a decent actor? And she turns around. She goes to me, he's okay. I was like, oh, my goodness. My wife said, you had a confession, didn't you? Yeah, he's okay. So I thought that was one of the funniest moments I've ever had in my life, where I don't know why, I wasn't, being obnoxious or anything. I just thought it was hilarious that she said, yeah, you look like that guy,
Right.
And then she finally told me what she thought of that guy, which I thought was hilarious. But no, if anybody wants to talk to me, it still freaks me out a little bit. It's like, you want what?
Sure.
I want a picture. Oh, for what? It's like to put on my Facebook.
An autograph or a picture, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? When it can be done for a cause or something like that, when I'm raising money for firemen or something like that, I'll sign as many pictures as you put in front of me. I'll take as many pictures as you put in front of me. That's where it becomes awesome. Beneficial and effective. But
of course.
No, even my sisters will be with me, and somebody will recognize me, and they're like, "Does that freak you out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it does." And one of those things.
They freak me out, those people, those fans of mine. They just
No. It's not them. It's my reaction to it. When somebody looks at me like right in the eye without blinking, and then all of a sudden they go to their phone, and then they look back up, and they go to their phone again, and then they show the phone to their buddy, and then they look back at you. It's like they're like, did I do something wrong? Am I parked illegally? What the heck is going on? So it's just part of the deal.
Oh, you betcha, without a doubt. Okay, so there's a couple quick things I have to finish up with. To those that are listening in case you do not know how to find Mr. Robert Burke, first of all, go to IMDb, because his entire listing of TV, film, etc. is there. He, of course, references his personal page, which is, of course, Robert Burke, minus the John, I might add, because sometimes it's Robert John Burke, sometimes it's Robert Burke. He is on Twitter, which is at Bobby, not Robert, Burke, Burke, and, of course, his work is on Amazon and Vimeo and the usual Hulu, etc., etc. So, the last two things that we need to do on this show, because you've never been to my show. First of all, I have something to offer you, because I always have something to offer the people that come on my show. See? I bet you thought she's asking me to do all this stuff, and now she's not going to give me anything, right? Wrong. Guess what? We're at that time where I get to give you something. Obviously, of course, I asked you to be in my film festival and be a panelist, and, of course, I asked you to find me a house. I could have asked you to find me a husband, but no, I didn't go that far. I have the reason I asked you about this independent film thing is because I have written something that you would be perfect for. And I don't know if you'd break my bank if I cast you, but I would love it if you at least would consider it.
I'm laughing
Maybe.
because, believe me, it will not break your bank.
Trust me, darling, you probably will. Okay, I'm a single working mama.
The last 4 films I've done, I think I got $175 for all of them put together. No, money's
oh my
not
God,
my
I can do it. I can do it. Yay! Okay, but the thing is that he's not a very nice person, and I've been thinking a lot about this because I'm like, here's what happens when you have an actor, like in this case, folks, you all know that I admire this man on the other end of the phone, which you'll hear why in a moment. So to cast someone that you like so much in a role that you hate so much is a contradiction in terms. I'm afraid that I'll stop liking you. That's the one thing I'm like, okay, do I want to put him in that role? Because then he's really bad and naughty, and it's not a great role. I mean, it's a great role, but it's a bad person. So I just decided to create something just for you. So I don't know if you're familiar with the director, John Gallagher. He's an independent director in New York City. He's a really good friend of mine.
I do know him. He just had a fire in his apartment a couple of years ago.
Yes, and we're very tight, him and I. And whenever we can get a chance to work together, I'm going to be on his set in February. He's got a bunch of the guys from The Sopranos and The Goodfellas in his new film. Anyways, we're very tight. And so I'm going to beg him, because I know he'll say yes, to direct this project that I'm doing. It's just a little indie short. And then I'm going to say this terrific guy, if he'll say yes, if Robert Burke will even think about it, well, it's a lead role, and I'd like you to do it. Just throwing that out there. That's one thing.
I'll
and of course,
I'll give it a read. I'll definitely give it a read.
Yeah. Oh my God. He definitely said I'll give it a read. OMG. What can I say? Okay. So the last part of this show is to obviously I get a chance at the very end of my show to tell the guests what I think of him.
Can I just say about John too? We have a lot of mutual friends, and not in the like pejorative like Facebook, like real friends of mine or friends of his. And
seriously.
Yeah, and people just think the world of him, and so anyway, I just wanted to say that I definitely know who he is, and the outpouring of support for him, for his person, for his professionalism. So yeah, I definitely know who John Gallagher is.
Definitely.
And of course,
I'm
a
so
fireman,
awesome.
I would know that he had a fire.
Well, and of course, obviously, right. And we all value him so very much. And you know, I was very lucky. He came on my show, and ever since he came on the show, oh my God, he's like a City fan, and I'm like, oh my God, John Gallagher's a fan of me. I'm like, no one's a fan of me. Well, there's like 58,000 people that listen to my show, but I'm like, he's a fan of mine. So I'm like, this is awesome. So if I could combine an actor that I adore with a director that I adore to make a project of mine, it'd be absolutely awesome. I just don't want to take you away from your passion. I wish I would have written you as a firefighter, but I didn't. So I hope.
Well, no. I mean, listen, like I said, I say I will read it, and I will read it.
Oh, okay. So the very last part is I get to say nice things about you. Well, semi-nice. Well, awesome things about you. If anybody listens to my show, which you all do, you already know that the very last part is unscripted. This is the only part of my show that I never write, and it's honest and it's real, and it's really my reflections, and I do this for 2 reasons. First of all, I could rattle off your IMDb, but that doesn't talk about you as a person. So I just want to give the audience my reflections of the things that I've observed and noticed some of the things that other actors and people have said about you. And I don't want to forget to remind everybody that 2 hours after the show is finished, it will be archived. You can go back and listen to it all year round. You can listen to it constantly if you want. So on that caveat, let me tell you what I think of you, Mr. Robert Burke. When I knew that I was going to be interviewing you, I went to fellow actors and individuals, people that had contact with you, and I said, I want you to tell me something about this man that has nothing to do with his acting ability. Well, they didn't all listen, so this is what I will tell you. Mr. Burke has been called an amazing actor who is brilliant. He's great. He's phenomenal. His onstage presence is as real as his offstage appearance. He's as real as rain, was the actual quote that was being used, and that was from a fellow actor that I admire very much. They talked a great deal about your level of integrity, honesty, intensity, and your ability to be funny and charismatic all while being serious at the exact same time, which I find to be awesome. The main reason that I wanted to interview you is because when you spend years of your life watching someone on screen, and you would never know this, but most of us in the listening or the viewing audience thank you every single time you do a performance, even if we can't contact you. And why? Because you've made me cry, you've made me laugh, you've moved me, you've made me think, you've made me get motivated. All of those things, I'm very grateful that you, almost a literal stranger, have given to me by walking onto a stage or a bigger screen. You emulate what you are. You are a very real performer, and I like the fact that you're real. I like that you came on the show and you're not ultra Hollywood, and you're not, look at me, I'm this fabulous, terrific guy. You're very honest. You're very humble. You're very hardworking, and I would surmise that you put 150% of you into everything that you do. The biggest honor in this last hour and a half is being able to talk to somebody who is just so very genuine and so very passionate. I love that you love every part of your life. You live every part of your life. And I love the fact that you decided to spend 90 minutes of your life with me, because this is one of those game-changer moments. I know I sound like a fan right now, but the coolest part is that you're a real, genuine person, and I got the good fortune to be able to tell you what I thought of you, even if it's just on a phone. And even if you never do my role or you don't get to my festival, I want to thank you for just being you and the gift that you give all of us as an actor. That's what I think of you.
Wow.
Are you okay? Why do people always do that? Some of them cry. Some of them say nothing. I'm like, what? I'm just being real. That's just me.
I think my gifts, are just passed on from my parents. That's case closed. Unless you, Cindy, put together and constructed this venue and got the information out, nobody would know these wonderful things about me. But at the same time, I think just speaking to you and having looked, at the work you do and everything, and I wish you nothing but success, continued success, and growth, and to thrive and be happy. You sound very happy doing what you're doing. You're brilliant at what you do, and
Thank you.
You make it seem effortless, and I'm just flattered and really happy to have spent this time.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet of you. And it occurred to me while we were talking, I didn't ask you the question. I asked this question of every guest that comes on the show, and I know you're going to say yes. This is the last question I have for you. Every guest that comes on the show, and you haven't known me that long, you're in my top 20. They're the top 5 actors of all time that I've always wanted to interview. I have been trying to interview the same man for over almost 18 months. And I got to tell you, I'm ready to give up. So I'm going to ask you this question. Maybe you know him, and maybe you can make my dream come true, because I'm tired of being told no. How about that? He's an actor. So I was just wondering if by some chance you might happen to know Mr. Michael Madsen.
I do not.
Why does everyone keep saying no? I'm like, I keep getting closer. I've tried everything, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make it the running joke on the show. Like, literally, I ask every guest. I'm like, I know you got Michael Madsen's cell phone number. I know you know him. I know this is going to happen. But they all keep saying no. That's all right. I'll keep trying. I'll come up with something clever. It's tough, let me tell you. These Hollywood types, it's tough. It's rough out there.
18 months isn't a long pursuit, really. 18 months.
Really?
You're just getting warmed up. Yeah, I mean, listen.
Really?
Stick with it. You're going to get him on the show. It's just a matter of how long. But
I know.
So 18 months. Don't give up at 18 months.
My God, this is crazy though. I got Apollo Creed to say yes to me. Carl Weathers is coming on my show. I'm like, that's big,
wow.
Right? I mean, like, right? I can get you. I can get Carl Weathers. I'm like, I'm kicking it, man. I got the good stars.
No, just you can do your intros every day until such time as he does come on the show. By way of saying, right. He's not Michael Madsen, ladies and gentlemen, but he is here to. I mean, spin it until he has to come on to. But right. No, keep going, keep trying.
You think?
I wouldn't know where he lived or what he did or anything like that, but he's a tremendous force. Also, I can tell you that, man.
Oh, definitely, without
his performances.
Definitely. So I just thought I'd throw my ring in there, but of course you don't know. Yeah. So I'm back at square one again, but that's okay. But that's all right. We got somewhere on all this good jazz and stuff. So yes, I thank you. I'm so glad. I thank the fire department that they did not interrupt this interview. I probably would have cried because I took a lot of time to try to make it a good one. So yes, thank you for not being interrupted, and thank you for the time. And yes, I'll stay in touch. And obviously I told you about the festival, but we'll have to talk about that I've written. And I'm so honored. I don't even know what else to say, but thank you. You've made my day. Thank you.
Cindy, thank you so much.
Sure.
I'll be in touch. I'll get you information, whereas you can forward that reading material.
Sure.
I'll be looking for an apartment for you, and I will also, anyway, no, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. And,
yes, it was.
And all the best to you, and thank you again for asking me.
Anytime whatsoever. Like I said, I'll be in touch and we'll be talking. Just have a wonderful afternoon and enjoy the lovely 60-degree weather there. So I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You suck. I mean, no. And it's 30.
No. It's a little mild here. Believe me, it's nothing like I'm sure Wisconsin, but at the same time, it's
right.
It's winter is winter, which I love it. I don't care. I love it all.
Exactly.
All right, Cindy.
Just be careful.
All the best.
Be careful.
Yeah, no,
yes, dear.
We're all careful. We're smart. We try to be smart. We try to be careful, and we try and look out for each other.
Awesome. Well, enjoy your afternoon,
okay.
my dear. We'll be talking soon. Take care.
Thanks, Cindy. Take good care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Right. I don't even know what to say. I got no words, right? Amazing, phenomenal. God, I hope I did a good job. God, I hope he didn't think it was awful. I hope my listening audience thought that this was a worthwhile one. If there was the moment he came on air, obviously, of course, we've learned some tremendous lessons about acting and life and all the different cool opportunities that he's had. So again, Mr. Robert Burke, you're phenomenal. Reminder to everybody, he has an IMDb page. He has a Facebook personal page. His Twitter handle, one more time, is and that's Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, Burke, B-U-R-K-E. And, of course, obviously, his work can be found on Amazon, Vimeo, Hulu, Sling TV, Netflix, just about every possible place that you can think of, obviously. So, again, my thanks to the listening audience, my thanks to my guest, of course, my thanks to all of the actors who gave me some feedback relative to Mr. Burke. Cross your fingers that he says yes to my film, because wouldn't that be absolutely awesome? I don't want to forget to remind everybody that tomorrow, where am I tomorrow? Oh, after the doctor, 2 o'clock Central Standard Time. We are interviewing Mr. Durden, if you could say that, D-U-R-D-E-N, Godfrey. And I'm so excited to be having him on because, first of all, I always love using my platform to expose the world to independent filmmakers. So obviously he's done a little project called Never Go Back Film, and forgive me because I believe it's still in the GoFundMe stage. But what's really cool about him is that he's also a talk show host, he's a photographer, he's a husband, he's also a writer, he's also a producer and a director, he's also been involved with video work. I love my cross creatives, we all know that. I am always excited to be hosting them. So please come back and support him. 2 o'clock Central Standard Time tomorrow. Again, thanks so much, folks, to everybody listening in. I hope you have a wonderful afternoon. I'm about to go back to my bat cave to write about another 25 pages of this textbook, handbook. I think I'm going to die before this is done. Anyways, thanks, folks, for the support. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
What you doing? Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop! At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop! At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.